Happy Friday. Sorry. Um, Checking some stuff. Sorry for the delay. If you're hearing me, if you're watching this, we do office hours every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific for our group here at straighttalkacademy.com. If you're not a part of straighttalkacademy.com, I really suggest that you go ahead and sign up. We blast this out to YouTube maybe once a month or so. Um, every Friday, we do a topic. Sometimes I choose it. Sometimes someone else has maybe something that they'd like to discuss. We have a discussion for maybe 10 or 15 minutes. And the idea behind that is that when it gives you time to come in, ask some questions, doesn't have to be on the topic we're discussing, right? So you can ask any question at all on commercial real estate. We will answer it. If you're watching this after the fact, just type it in the comments and we'll go ahead and answer that as well. Good morning, John. John, can you hear me this time? We're going out to YouTube and uh, Facebook again. Let me know if you can hear me before we go further. Right on. So we fixed that. Nice. All right. So we're going to chat today a bit about business development and building your book of business. If you've been with us for more than 6 months, you might have seen this around December. We talked about similar thing. But I'd like to talk a bit about, the when I first started commercial real estate, I didn't know what I would do every day, right? What do you do? How do I build my business? What do I do every single day? What should be part of my process during the day? And so I didn't know, so a lot of my career, the first half of my career was just sitting around building stuff organically. So going to meetings with networking, I was with KW Commercial for a while. So, just getting leads from residential agents a lot of times, which is fine. But how did I didn't know how to, traditionally how you build your book of business. So I think last week we talked about maybe it was a week before that, we talked about some non-traditional ways to expand your book of business. But today we're going to talk about exactly what you do regularly every single day to build your book of business. Ask any question you like, whether this is live or if you're watching this after the fact. So today, like I said, my question was, what do you do every day? Right? As an agent, what do you struggle with most every day, whether you're residential or commercial? And the answer is almost always someone's going to say consistent leads. You know, so our biggest part of our business is prospecting. And if you're getting into commercial real estate and you do what I'm about to tell you, the first 2 years, 18 months to 2 years, should be building your database, building up the number of people that you know who own property. Um, and most of that's going to be cold calls. So over time, it's going to transition into just maintaining that database. You might have some cold calls, but a lot of those are going to be just maintenance calls, following up with people, talking to people you've already spoken to. It's going to be a lot easier. But over the first 18 months to up to 2 years, you're going to be building that database, and that can be daunting. And the reason people, and what I'm talking about here, this is what's going to turn you into $1 million a year commission agent by doing what I'm going to tell you. Most people don't do it. One sec here. There we go. All right. So, like I said, how to be $1 million commission agent. Oh, here, one sec. I got my daughter here in the back. One sec. There we go. Of course, my daughter in the other room spilled a big glass of milk. So, of course. So here's what you do. There's no magic. There's no special sauce. It's, hey, you want to be $1 million a year agent, build the database of 5,000 people that you've spoken to who own property. You've got their phone number, maybe you've got their email, but you've spoken to 5,000 people. They're part of your database who own property. And then you're going to connect with them on a regular basis. You're going to have them probably to start with, you're going to have an email campaign of probably 5 emails or so that kind of onboards them. And then I call it a Seinfeld sequence. Seinfeld has self-contained episodes, right? So you don't have to look at an episode before. They're all self-contained. They have their own little mini stories within each single episode. So you have an onboarding sequence where you're saying, thanks for your discussion. Here's the thing I talked about. Maybe a couple other emails that over time build that relationship up from the beginning. And then you enter them into what's called a Seinfeld sequence, where that's a self-contained story every single time. So every single week, if you wanted to, you could write a new email and then just drop it in your Seinfeld sequence, right? So I use Active Campaign. I use Attract Zen. These are email campaign, softwares. And then that's it as far as the email campaigns. And then outside of that, you have a 23 touch every single year. So you're going to connect with your client or your database prospects 23 times per year. Okay, so that could be a call, maybe twice a year or more, right? So every quarter, there's 4. Emails, those are easy to just, click out. Like I said, Seinfeld sequence. And the Seinfeld sequence, these are going to be valuable, emails with value, not just, hey, how are things going? It's going to say, hey, here's a law that just passed. California has a rent control law that passed. Here's the rules of that. Here's a link to the article on that. Thought you would like to know that. Okay, so that's part of your Seinfeld sequence. So you're going to have emails that go out, maybe some physical mail. Every time you get a listing, you're going to send them a postcard, probably, right? You're going to send them an email about it. So right there, as you're getting listings, you're starting to reach out to them consistently. Maybe some live meetings. Maybe you want to go have coffee or lunch or whatever with them. It's up to you. But the kind of the magic sauce to staying top of mind, right? So you want to stay top of mind to the client is 23 times per year. Okay. And I don't know what science went into that or what kind of research went into that, but that seems to be the magic number. If you're too much more than that, you're a bit pushy and maybe a little bit annoying. If you're less than that, you're not quite top of mind. So you want to be top of mind, because every single person you talk to who owns property, maybe about 5% of those are ready and able to sell their property. Okay, that doesn't mean they want to sell. That doesn't mean they're going to let you sell it, especially if this is the first time talking to them. But maybe about 5% are willing to sell or ready to sell at the time you talk to them. Now, what that means is you just got to stay in front of them over time, because eventually all of those people will want to sell, right? And trade up or do move their equity around, etc. So you need to stay top of mind, because that's how you get the business done. So that's what I would do right there. What do you do every day? You need prospecting every single day. Okay, this could be cold calls, especially in the first 2 years. You're going to be doing cold calls. Some of the big houses, they say, I need you to talk to. When they say calls, they mean someone picked up the phone and you had a conversation. That's a call. Dials or another thing. That's, you dialed the number. Maybe someone picked up, maybe not. Maybe you left a voicemail. Okay, so a lot of the big houses, a lot of the people who are very successful have 100 calls per day. Okay, now over time, as you grow your database, that's going to probably shrink, because you're going to have other stuff to do. You're going to have other money-making activities. But as you're building your database, you need to have 100 calls, people you speak to every day. That should be your goal. That's very ambitious. It's going to take you quite a bit of time, especially if you're dialing them manually. But that would be the goal that a lot of the big houses have. Okay. Other than that, you're prospecting with your database. Okay. You're developing your database. Other things that are outside of the prospecting calls would be, developing those email campaigns, doing social media posts, maybe developing or promoting a lead magnet, etc. You know, so I've got my mainstay of stuff where I'm dialing. If I hit my dials or my calls every day, I can then move on. If I don't have other stuff to do, like doing a BOV, I can do other prospecting stuff that expands my influence. Okay. Now, other than that, there's meeting prep. So you've got the 2-step listing where you have meeting 1, where you deliver whatever you're we'll talk about that in a bit, but we'll deliver our deliverable. So I've called someone, I have a reason to call them. I say, hey, I'll give you this thing, rent survey, some people who want to sell or buy something. So I've got a reason to call someone so I can get meeting number 1. At meeting 1, I deliver my deliverable, and then I try and get meeting number 2. Meeting number 2 is where I take their books and records that I've acquired at meeting 1, and then I go and I give them a broker opinion of value, and at meeting 2, I try and list it. Other than that, you've obviously got listing and escrow management. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. But don't get too complicated. If you're getting started, build your database. 5,000 active contacts is huge. Like, you will be well over $1 million a year if you're regularly cycling through a 5,000 contact database. And then you just need to talk to them 23 times a year. That could be email, that could be mail about listings, that could be calls, live meetings, etc. Just but 23 times a year tends to get you top of mind when you're dealing with your database. Then you can add the complexity, right? So keep it simple with those things, and then add, hey, we've got this website, we've got this elaborate meeting scheme where we've got a lunch and learn every month. Don't worry about that until you've got a database that keeps you busy and you've got a system in place where you're connecting with them 23 times every single year. Now, question is, just to build a database, right? Just call these people, build that database. It's just that easy. No. Because I know you've got a question like, what do I say on my calls? What scripts do I use? What do I say to someone? Well, number 1, you need to have a reason to reach out to the people that you're connecting with. I use depreciation. You could discuss, like in California, rent control. There's a statewide rent control thing. It's pretty loose, but obviously there's concern there. Maybe you need to transition into a different product type. Interest rates are rising right now. As someone owns a property over time, their cash on cash returns or their annual return will start to decrease. Okay. So over time, 5 to 7 years, you should be buying up. You should have cashed in on your cash flow. You should have massaged the property, improved it, and then you should be trading up into some other stuff to keep your cash on cash return high. And then obviously other value opportunities for your database, right? So I'm in California. I do multifamily. I've got specific things I talk to them about with depreciation specifically, but you may have some stuff with your product type. It could be industrial or warehouse or office or retail that within your state or even a national, things that go on could have a benefit to owners. Don't assume that an owner who owns commercial property knows everything. A lot of times the owners are not up to speed on many of the things they can do to save money or make more money. So, don't shy away from that. Get your list and go call those people. 2-part listing sequence, we talked about that. So basically that is you call them. Okay. I'm cold calling people with a reason. And that reason is to have something of value to deliver to them. Now, I'm not going to deliver that to them by email. I'd like to meet with them. So meeting number 1. Okay. At meeting number 1, I deliver whatever that is. That could be a rent survey. That could be some other stuff. But during meeting number one, what I'd like to do, and you can get these books and records beforehand if you can. But meeting number one, now I've delivered my thing. I'd like those books and records. I would like to give you a full analysis of your property and provide some value, so we can be again. Okay, so we're gonna get the books and records. We're gonna secure meeting number two. Meeting number two, I'm gonna deliver that broker opinion of value and try and get the listing. Because I know, and I'm not going to do this just because. I'm going to do this because I think it's a good idea for this owner to sell. Sometimes it's not a good idea. Sometimes I want to advise them, because this is not just me trying to make money. You don't want commission breath. You want to try and advise them for whatever is best in their best interest. Okay, so that doesn't necessarily mean I want to sell it. Sometimes that could mean, hey, you know what we should probably do is adjust your rents. Here's some things you can do there. Here's some things you can do over here to streamline your expenses, and then we can take another look in a year or two. In the meantime, hey, do you have any cash lying around? Because here's some good reasons why you should buy, right? So depreciation is my thing. That's expiring. There's an expiring law at the end of the year that lets them write off a whole bunch of stuff. We should buy some stuff right now, before the interest rates go up, before that expires, so you can have a bunch of write-offs. Okay. Then once you get the listing, you need to do what we've discussed before, where you turn one listing into three. Okay, you use that target method where you've got a small group that you call about the property, a larger group that you send a letter with a flyer to, and then you've got the whole market, or however wide you can go, where you send a postcard, because we're saturating our market with these are those touches we talked about. And then we grow our call list. So just for an example, John may still be here. John, are you here? I want to have this as an example. John, part of his database, called us, and John's going to go ahead and get a listing on this thing. This is someone who's on the property. They've owned it for far too long. We haven't had that discussion about depreciation, but what we're going to do is, at first it's probably going to be a pocket listing, then we'll transition into a real listing. But he's going to sell this thing probably about north of 2 million. Guy's going to trade into something else. He probably has some cash lying around where he's going to want to, after we talk to him again. Why is this taking so long? Buy some additional properties before this depreciation thing runs out, because he's got other income where he would benefit from owning additional properties. So we had a call. We had a deliverable with the BOV that we talked about, right? So we didn't even have that meeting. The call ended up being meeting one, where we talked to the client about his income, about his expenses, tenancy, how long he's owned it. We're going to take that information, we're going to turn it into a BOV, and then hopefully meet with him. I think he's in town here somewhere in Sacramento. At that meeting, we can try and get the full listing. If not, that's fine. We can actually shop the comp and like we talked about, do that target method, where now I have a really good reason to talk to all the owners around here, right? So if I go back here, I can show you there's a bunch of this types of property in the area, and we can go in and call this whole list of owners and have a reason to talk to them. Maybe they want to acquire it, maybe not, maybe they want to sell. But now they've got a good reason to talk to me, and I can build my database with this property in my area. I'm not sure why this is going very slow, but you can see here there's a bunch of warehouse properties in the area. Very similar. Okay, they're calling them. So anyway, that's all I wanted to talk about today. Let's see here. Boop. That's the magic right there. If you want to build your database do that. That's it. That's what you go to places like Marcus Millichap, CBRE, big commercial houses. They will make you pay lots of money to learn this, and then most of your commissions will go out the door to them. You will basically be an intern for a year. They will not let you list or sell anything for, I think, 18 months or so is kind of their rule. So all the progress you make will go out the door. So that's the magic right there. Build a database, contact them regularly. Uh, and by that, I mean have an email campaign, have a system by which you're connecting with them 23 times a year. And there you go. That's it. Questions? Don't see any questions, guys. If I don't see any questions, we'll just shut things down. So I got 10:23 my time. I'm gonna go grab another cup of coffee. And if you got any questions, if you're on YouTube, if you're on Facebook, whether it's now or after the fact, let me know. We'll answer them. I'll be right back. Sure thing, John. No problem, man. While we're waiting here, see if any questions come in. I have. So if you're wondering where you get these numbers, where do you get your database? With my brokerage, they give us this for free. Reonomy, I think, will cost you probably running about $297 a month. But that's how you get information for the owners, right? So you can see here this guy. This is the parcel just south of what we were talking about, which is this parcel. I've got cell phone numbers and phone numbers of this guy. I can pull full lists. So I could do a save search here and like multifamily farm 1. Reonomy is good. Prospect Now is good. CoStar is probably the best for anything affordable. You've got, I forget the name of it, but there's another one above that, which is like $1,500 a month. CoStar will run you $450 a month. Reonomy will be $297 a month. Prospect Now will be about $100 a month. So pick your price point. You'll get quality of leads in accordance in line with that price point. Bought membership yesterday. Residential agent with a hot commercial lead wanting some questions answered about capturing the lead. Elaborate. You have me till 11 if you guys want. So if you guys have questions, whether it's this, whether it's anything. Okay, we went through a contract the other day. We went through a full contract and redlined it on a warehouse deal, I think, if I remember right. So if you've got a hot commercial lead, is this a buyer? Is it a seller? What is it? Let me know. One unit left to lease before he puts it on the market. Very motivated seller. I imagine that's a retail property. What makes him motivated? I see here they also said no relationship with an agent. What makes him motivated? Why does he want to sell? Usually the office. Oh, so it's an office building. Here, pop that up there. Um, office is hurting right now after the pandemic because a lot of office users recognize they could downsize significantly, cut down on their employees' drive time, cut down on space and the cost therein. And then a lot of employees are actually much happier when they can work from home. So that's kind of affected office. Not too bad, not as bad as I thought it would, but leasing up office space has a big question mark over it because of those changes that we've started to see in the industry. Who's got one office space to lease up? Why don't you do an analysis of the property? That's our first step, right? So our two-step process is number one, let me do a broker opinion of value on your property. Number two, here's the broker opinion of value. Let's list it. And here's why. Ready to cash in, let go of that response. They're all filled. Do not let him cash in. Medical groups, very good. You want to, let's see here. Where am I? Let's see here. New slide. So, let's see here. Yeah, so you're looking here. So yeah, I would go through the office videos on the school. You're gonna want to analyze the property and say, here's what it's worth. So office space like that. So you've got an owner user and you've got an investor use, right? So you're gonna have an investment mindset when you go through this. Okay. So you can value it based on what an owner user would value it or the income. So you have cap rate, right? So NOI is net operating income divided into whatever the cap rate is. Is value, right? Let's see if he wants to fill vacant and sell on the market. I like this. So he's saying wants to fill a vacant unit, sell it on the market, charging 23 a foot. Do you know the income, total income of the building with that space filled? Yeah. Let's do this. Okay. So if you're not seeing this, so it doesn't have information on the expenses or the income. They're going to discuss that today. He wants to be ready with the right questions. Okay. So when I'm talking to a new owner, here's what I want to know. What's the income? Okay. So I don't know if you've been through this, but the type of leases can be a gross lease or some sort of type of net lease. So a gross lease is going to be right. So modified so gross lease would be just like a flat fee. So this would be like an executive suite where I've got maybe an office space, and I've got a couple suites there where people can rent out one room, right? So they're not going to pay for the electricity or anything else. They're just going to pay me a flat fee. That's a gross lease. So modified gross is more of what you see in multifamily. So that's where I pay a flat fee rent, but I also pay my own electric and gas, or whatever. So I pay something in addition to the gross rent. Right. Rent plus. Okay. So what I mean by this, you have net, double net, triple net. Perfect. Yeah. So you want to know the type of leases. So you've got the gross lease, modified gross, then you've got the different types of net. The more ends you have, the more nets you have, the more that is on the tenant's shoulders. So triple net could mean they pay for everything. Sometimes the language is a bit muddled. Sometimes people mean the tenant pay on triple net, tenant pays for everything but roof and structure or something. Sometimes people will say absolute triple net, which means everything. So if someone says triple net, clarify. Does that mean absolutely everything, or is the owner responsible for something? But when you're entering the net phase, the owner will typically pass on most, if not all, expenses to the tenant, right? So double net typically will mean tenant's responsible for everything except roof and structure. And the question there would be, what about the HVAC system and that kind of stuff, right? Triple net typically will mean that the tenant is responsible for everything. But when you're in an office space here, a lot of things that you're asking is, um, what expenses are on the tenant's plate? Do they have CAM fees? Right? CAM fees are common area maintenance. Okay, so so when I'm talking to this owner, I'm gonna say, okay, what type of leases do you have? Okay, this is the rent. Okay, do you charge them any CAM fees or net fees to reimburse yourself for the expenses, right? So that would be a main question for me when I'm talking to him about his units. Do you have CAM fees? Do you have net fees that you get reimbursed? Cool. Okay. Do you have, what is the term? I don't do office a whole lot. Do you load factor? Very important question for an office owner. Right, it's going to make you look like a superstar if you ask them about this. So a load factor is the amount of what would be rentable space that is common area. Okay. So in an office, you go inside and there's the little reception area, there's stairs going up, there's hallways and walkways and all this. You could rent that out to someone, and you should be getting rent for that space. It's almost like common area maintenance, right? So it's common areas, but you should be getting rent for that area because people are using it. They don't have their desk, in the common area, but they're using it, right? They're using it. People are coming in, they're being impressed by all the cool stuff on the walls. The area that is not rented but is common area, the percentage of that common area is what's called the load factor. Okay, and most office owners do not calculate that into the rent, right? So you got a 10,000 square foot office building. Say I've got a bunch of tenants. 1,000 square feet, right? Because what you're doing is you build it out, right? So you build out the different office spaces for whatever they need. So you end up at the end of the day, for example, with 1,000 square feet that's hallway, right? So what's the load factor of this building? It's 10%. We're talking actual square footage. Yeah, so there's total square footage of the, so there's total square footage and rentable square footage in most buildings. For most buildings, the difference is negligible, right? So you get a retail strip, the total square footage and the rentable square footage, because the walls, it's a little bit different, right? Total square footage would be 10,000 square feet on my retail strip, and then the rentable square footage is, 9,990, 10 square feet taken up by the width of the walls, etc. But in an office building, it's important because the rentable square footage is also different than the total square footage because of the walls, but the public areas that people are all using, you should be getting rent for that space. Okay, so in here, no, they probably don't. Do you think the load factor would be something that most owners know? No, they probably don't. And most of the time, CoStar, LoopNet, et cetera, will not have that factored in. Sometimes the leases will have that built in, where it will say load factor. Even with retail spaces, a lot of times like CAM fees and net fees are within the lease. Say, hey, you're going to have to pay me net fees, but the owner's not collecting it. With an office owner, same thing. They're not collecting the rent on this 1,000 square foot of walkway here, right? So I'm saying there's 10% of the building is hallway, walkway, stairs, blah, blah, blah. He should be getting paid rent. So you're saying $23 a foot. Right. So basically, yeah. So it's an extra $23,000 in net, annual income that he's just losing. He's just letting it go. In this instance, or in this example, right? So if there's 1,000 square foot of common areas, you should be collecting rent on that, right? So depending on how many tenants you have, they're going to pay their pro rata share of that load factor of this 23,000. Okay. So if I've got a space, so we have got, let's see here. See if I can remember how to do this. Again, I don't know the office a lot. So I've got a space that's 2,500 square feet. And then there's 9,000 square feet that are not a part of the common areas, right? So there's 9,000 rentable square feet that's not a part of this load factor. So divide by 9,000. So I'm going to pay a little over 27% of that. What did we say that was? 23. Yes, 23 times. Right. So I'm paying an additional, me as a tenant with a 2,500 square foot space in a 10,000 square foot building with 1,000 square feet that are not being rented to tenants. My pro rata share would be about $530 a month that I should be paying to the owner because of that load factor. Okay. Hope that makes sense. I know that this is a little bit more complicated, but this will make you look like a superstar. If you say, hey, do you know the load factor? You don't have to know it. Okay. So if you're asking them questions like, hey, okay, what's your leases? Are they on gross or are they net? Okay, cool. What kind of expenses do you collect? Do you collect CAM fees? Do you collect net fees? Yes or no? And they'll tell you something, or they may not know. Do you happen to know what the load factor is? I noticed that you've got a couple common areas here. Do you happen to know the load factor of the building? And they'll say, well, what's the load factor? Well, you've got area here that people are all using. It's not necessarily built out as an internal office, but it is a common area and it should be rented to the tenants who are exclusively using it, right? So this is not public space. This is their space. You should be charging them for the square footage that they're using here, right? So you may be leaving some money on the table if you're not charging for that. So here's what we'll do. I'd like to see the leases so I can take a look at that. Do you happen to have a P&L for the last year? Or, it's called a T12, trailing 12. Do you have a T12? Because then what I can do is I can take a look at the leases. I can take a look at your T12, and I can put together a full analysis on not only what the rents are or what you could do to adjust them, but what we could sell it for if we really wanted to. And I've got some great ideas on how you can move up. You can actually trade into some things that are going to actually increase your cash flow a lot. Interest rates are going to go up here soon. This would be a great move if we were to trade out of this into something else. Stuff like that. Hopefully this is helping. I don't know. Common area square footage times the dollar per square foot is how I can calculate the fees he needs to collect on top of the base rent. Yeah, basically yes, but I don't know if he's going to charge the same amount for the common area or not. It's just kind of a simplified version of saying, hey, you should be getting rent, for example, for this 1,000 square feet. You should be getting rent for that. Because if you built out the space differently, you'd be using an additional 500 square feet for, so-and-so's office because they need an additional, cubicle, whatever. So you should be getting rent for the common areas. Excellent. That's what we want. We're here every Friday. If you have a question between now and next Friday, type it into our Facebook. If you're watching this on YouTube and you're not part of our Facebook group, join us. StraightTalkAcademy.com. Here, I can actually do this. Check this out. Ooh, that's cool. Pull this up. Or what we get? Also saying I can look at other lease agreements with the other tenants and adjust them before hitting the market. You may be able to, if it's signed, but that'll probably mostly give you a better idea of what the income and expenses are, what they should be, what he's not collecting, because a lot of times owners are not collecting what they should within the lease's parameters be collecting. So this is something you can bring up to him. Say, hey, I noticed you're expecting CAM fees. What are you said you're not collecting anything. Why not? Right. And it makes you look really good, really, savvy. What to charge for a sale? Commissions are not fixed by law. I closed a mobile home park at the beginning of the year where our commission was 10%, which is insane. Traditionally, if I'm under 5 million, I usually want to charge 6%. I'll keep 3, I'll give 3 away. The market's very hot right now. Sometimes you see things as low as 4%. Right? It just depends on your market, what you can charge. So when I'm talking to someone about the commission, I'm talking about like, hey, I have to hand off the commission to the buyer's agent. They're out there looking for stuff. They're spending money. So we need to pay them a fee. For my fees, here's how that breaks down. This is how I describe it to them. 1% goes to marketing. 1% goes to a lot of the paperwork, transaction coordinator fees, watching, reading through everything. And then 1% is really my profit, right? So if they're being a hard ass about it, I can say, look, if you want to, you can pay 1 point. We can take that off and you can pay that up front, but it really doesn't make sense for you, Mr. Owner, because I'm spending this stuff whether or not we sell the property. Okay, so if I get paid my full 3% for my side, I'm still spending that money on the marketing and the tools and the resources and everything that goes into it. And then if we don't sell it, I'm out that money. You don't owe me anything. So it's in your best interest to charge, just pay me my full 3% if we sell it, and leave that on me to spend that money. Hopefully that helps. I'm hoping all this is helpful. These are good questions. We got another 12 minutes or so. If you guys have any other questions. Oh, for leasing. Okay, so the question is, what do I charge for leases? So here's how leases break down. And I think we've gone over leases. So I have to organize our Facebook with topics and stuff so we can make sure we see those. I got to also upload those to the website. Okay. So on residential, anywhere from 25 to. So for leases, here's how that works. Here, it's called base rent, right? So we talked about gross leases and net leases. So the base rent that they're paying, not including, the net fees or the CAM fees, right? So I have a base rent of a certain amount, and then I've got an additional amount that could be a certain amount per square foot that I have to pay for the net fees and the CAM fees. Base rent. Oh, you spell commission. Right. So your base rent will be a certain amount of rent per square foot. So we just did what is it? The Camp is a fitness transformation center. We just did that. So I got paid like 15,000 or something like that for that. So that was, for example, 8,000 square feet, base rent. Oh, I forget. Well, let's do an example. Right. So in California, we'll typically look at things as a dollar amount per foot per month. As you go farther east, they tend to look at it as a dollar per foot, a dollar amount per foot per year. So if you see something like this where it's $1.35 or something like that, it's probably per month. All right, so let's just run that. I'll break this down more. Just hold on. All right, so 10.8 per month. All right, so per year he's paying 129,000 in base rent. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, yeah. So you're saying you're in Texas, yeah. So yeah, that's more common, annual agreement. So I'm doing extra steps here, timesing it by 12. You won't have to do that. Now, usually in commercial leasing, you get paid for the first 5 years at a certain rate, and then if it's different, if they have like a 15-year lease, you may get paid a reduced amount or no amount after 5 years. So typically, office, retail, unless it's some special agreement where it's like, it's a single tenant type thing, you're going to be paid a certain amount for the first 5 years and then a different amount for the balance. In leasing, and again, I don't do a lot of leasing. I actually might call around to office spaces and see what they're offering. That might be a good idea in your area. But I think we got paid like 5%, if I remember right. Right. And then say it's a 10-year lease. So you say 5% for 5 years, and then we're going to give you 2.5%. Right. So it could be something like that. And all you do, right? So over 5 years, my guy here is going to pay, 648. And I am, of course, a realtor, so I don't know math or an agent. All right. So in here, we'll be paid $32,400 on this example. Okay, not bad. Okay. I don't remember what we got paid on that, but that was kind of roughly what we got paid. Right, we got paid for the first 5 years. I think he has this 10-year lease, but they were only offering commission on the first 5 years. So when you're negotiating as a leasing agent, and I'd be a little cautious if you're just getting in the commercial, trying to do commissions or leasing. This is how that's how it's calculated. Is you have a certain percentage of the total base rent for the base term. So that could be the first 5 years. A lot of times it'll be discounted on the second 5 years. And then after 10 years, they're usually not really going to pay you anything. So hopefully that helps walk you through commercial leasing. I think we did cover this, I want to say a month and a half ago on office hours. So maybe go back and check some of that stuff out. But that's the basics of commercial leasing. You're very welcome. If you're watching this after the fact, if you're watching this on YouTube, you're not part of the schools here, straighttalkacademy.com right there at the bottom. Join up, monthly fee, no commitment, 50 hours of classes. And then every single Friday we do this, but on YouTube we blast it out maybe once a month or less, just so you can see what you're missing out on. So want some help with commercial, join us at straighttalkacademy.com. I'm going to get another cup of coffee and we got 10:55. If I see anything between now and 11, we'll answer it. If not, we'll see you next week. I'll be right back. All right, guys, I got just about 11 o'clock my time, Pacific. Don't see any other questions. If you're watching this after the fact and you do have any questions, go ahead and type it in there. We'll get them answered. If you're watching this on YouTube and you're not a part of straighttalkacademy.com, join us. A lot of resources, everything I do in my private brokerage available, marketing materials, everything I've done is right there. You can pay for 1 month and then grab everything and scoot out if you wanted to. No commitment. We will talk to you guys next week. If you have a topic you want to discuss, let me know. Happy to chat about anything you guys like. We'll see you next time.